Ashlei Stevens here with Black Enterprise, excited to speak with the U.S. Secretary of Education, Miguel Cardona. Glad to have you here. How are you, sir?
Thank you, Ashlei. I'm great. I'm doing great. I'm feeling excited. I just sat in and watched the Vice President of the United States talk to HBCU grads as an alum herself. I'm pretty hyped up, to be honest with you.
Well, there's a lot to be hyped up about, right? The Vice President is out on a Fight for Our Freedoms college tour, right? Tell us about it.
Yeah, it's amazing. She's traveling the country, talking to college students, just reminding them of the importance of fighting for their freedom. And she's doing the same thing, whether it's reproductive rights, climate rights, making sure that the environment, we leave the environment in good shape for the next generation, the freedom to attend higher education without being saddled in debt for the rest of your life, voting rights, all these rights that are under attack by our Republican friends, we're fighting for. And it's exciting, the energy in the room and the passion that she feels about these issues. And I'm fortunate to be able to travel with her and, say some remarks about the great work that HBCUs do in our country.
Love to hear it because, as you know, HBCUs have long been on the forefront of fighting for rights, fighting for justice, especially for Black Americans. It's HBCU Week. So tell us about HBCU Week, and particularly, what is the White House and what are the Department of Education doing to support HBCUs, especially from a funding standpoint?
Absolutely. Look, we know HBCUs produce 70% of Black doctors in our country, 80% of Black judges, 50% of Black teachers, 40% of Black engineers. So we know they punch above their weight, and we need to make sure that we're supporting our HBCUs. So from day one, this administration, we were focused on making sure they get the support that they need. We provided over $7.3 billion for HBCUs. We provided some capital finance, loan forgiveness. We've made sure that we invested in their infrastructure. We heard from HBCU leaders and students that they need support with infrastructure. So our focus and our target is making sure they have the flexibility with federal dollars to use those dollars to get the infrastructure up. What that means is science labs, so they can focus on STEM, and so they could compete for contracts like other universities do. We're also making sure that we're telling governors that, historically they've been underfunded, and it's time to make sure that they're getting equitable funding and addressing the decades of underinvestment in HBCUs. So we're advocating for them, we're fighting with them, we're lifting them up, we're celebrating Black excellence at HBCUs.
Love to hear it. And you mentioned also governors. I know that recently you and the Secretary of Agriculture also sent a letter to 16 governors, mostly in southern states, to talk about that $12 billion funding gap between the HBCU land-grant universities and their non-HBCU land-grant counterparts. Have you received any responses from those governors?
I've not received anything, or to date, I haven't seen anything. It could be that they might have sent something to my team and I haven't gotten it yet, but I haven't received anything yet. Look, for me, it's about being open and transparent and saying, there's funding gaps that range from, $172 million to $2.1 billion.
Wow.
Think about the difference that would make for HBCUs.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about parity, right? Talk about having labs where the students are able to learn different curriculum, and the university would be able to compete for research grants that would keep their funding going. Like I say, they punch above their weight and have to do more with less. And it's time we call that out. And, it was easy for us to put these letters together. When we were discussing it at the Department of Education, I talked to Secretary Vilsack, and I said, this is what we're thinking. We'd love a cosign. He didn't even hesitate. He didn't blink. He said, I'm in. And a former governor himself, he recognizes the important role that states have to make sure they're taking care of the HBCUs.
Love to hear that. Love to hear that. Listen, I know a lot of things, something on students' minds is student loan debt. What is the White House doing about student loan debt relief?
Absolutely. Look, from day one, we provided over close to $120 billion in debt relief, fixed the public service loan forgiveness program. We've gone after colleges that are taking advantage of first-generation college students, through our borrower defense plan. And we're not going to stop. The president, when the Supreme Court, in my opinion, they got it wrong, but when they made that decision and they blocked 43 million people from getting debt relief that the president wanted, within an hour we had Plan B rolling, and we're going through that process right now through negotiated rulemaking to try to provide as much debt relief as possible. I need the folks listening to understand, there's a team fighting, and there's a team fighting against the work that we're doing to get debt relief. So, we're not going to give up. We've provided more debt relief in 2.5 years than any other administration. You combine them all together, they wouldn't touch what we did in 2.5 years. So we're going to take that same passion and energy and keep fighting for debt relief and making college more affordable, introducing the SAVE plan, and going after colleges that are taking advantage of our students. Higher education should be accessible to all students, not just wealthy.
Completely agree. Accessible to all. And also, Secretary, listen, how would the Supreme Court ruling on affirmative action impact HBCUs, in your opinion?
Well, the affirmative action decision, again, another bad decision that really just sends the wrong message. Even with affirmative action, our colleges were not as beautifully diverse as our country. So we still have work to do there, but they took us a step back. Quite frankly, I think it's going to result in an increase in HBCU enrollment because students are going to feel like they're not welcome in other campuses. And, HBCUs, a culture of Black excellence that I saw today, I think the enrollment's going to go up. So we need to make sure that we're fighting for funding to address the increases that they might see and making sure that they have the infrastructure necessary to have those scholars compete like every other college.
Love to hear it. Love to hear it. Listen, it sounds like the tour that the vice president is on has stopped at some HBCUs, right? Morehouse, Hampton, North Carolina A&T?
Yes, all those and more.
Awesome. We're excited to hear it. Last question for you, Secretary Cardona. Listen, K-12, obviously we have to build a pipeline of educated students who are ready to enter college, whether that be HBCU or the school of their choice. What are some of the current initiatives and priorities of the Department of Education for Black students and Black teachers?
Absolutely. Look, Ashlei, in this country, we've normalized opportunity gaps. They've existed for decades, and we've almost become desensitized as a country. We're not taking that. We're boldly and unapologetically raising the bar with an aim to lead the world. So we're addressing achievement disparities by putting dollars and resources in those schools that need it the most. We're addressing mental health needs in our schools by providing guidance and support for students in those communities. We're also making sure that we have certified teachers in every classroom. And we're making an emphasis on Black and brown teachers. Mm-hmm. We have dollars for pipeline programs, for grow your own programs that support getting into the profession. And we're also making pathways clearer for college and career. For far too long, many of our students have been left behind. We want to make sure all of our students are engaged, and we're creating pipelines for Black and brown students to go into the careers that are going to be available thanks to the legislation of the president and vice president.
Glad to hear it. So it sounds like the Biden-Harris administration and you working in tandem with them is continuing to support efforts to support Black and brown students at the K-12 level and also celebrating HBCUs as this is National HBCU Week.
Absolutely. We're proud to do it. And look, this is more than photo ops like the last administration. We're committed to it. This president has hired a more diverse cabinet than ever in our country's history. He wants a cabinet that looks like America to serve America. That's what we're all about. We're not going to stop fighting.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time and your input. Secretary Miguel Cardona with the U.S. Department of Education. We appreciate you speaking with our audience here at Black Enterprise.
Thank you.